I said, thanks for telling me. Yeah, no, she goes, I was listening, we were talking about your grandkids. Oh, no.
Okay, let's get started. Lisa, how are we doing over here? I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Lewiston Planning Board, February 20th. Order of business, I would introduce Henry Sandonato. If you go from the zoning, this is his first planning board meeting, so welcome, Henry. I need a roll call.
Patrick Baker.
Present.
William Burke.
Here.
William Conrad.
Here.
Mark Yellow.
Here.
Kenneth Lilly.
Here.
Henry Sandonato.
Here.
Bill Pazak.
We do have a form. Has everybody reviewed the minutes from December 19th?
Yes.
Any questions on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 19th, 2024.
I get a second.
No, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have one thing on the agenda, 5-Port Development Report. We're continuing the public hearing from our meeting, from our last meeting. You want to come up and state your name and talk about your project?
Thank you. I'm Jeff Colombo from the law firm of Black Colombo. I represent the petitioners. Just by way of brief history, I know the board is very familiar with this, and I'm sure many of the members of the audience are as well. But just briefly in terms of the history, back in October of 2024, the planning board approved the apartment complex with 168 units. The petitioner then went back to the drawing board based on financial considerations, went to the zoning board of appeals and asked for an increase to 228, asking for a variance. That was denied. And Article 78 was then filed. We had many conferences with the court and came up with a compromise of 210 units, and the town board subsequently approved the bonus density for 210 units. So we now have 7 buildings with 30 units each. Since the last meeting, we looked at the comments that came out, 2 different sheets that I saw, and I commented on my letter today. We've gone back and made adjustments to the site plan. For example, we're very aware of the 500-foot rule and the 3F Club's concern about the 500-foot rule. The building, the closest dwelling to the property line originally was approximately 145 feet, 148 feet. We've now moved it so that it's 250 feet off the property line. So I know that's not exactly what everybody's looking for, but it's really the best we can do in terms of modifying the site plan so that we still can achieve the goal of the 210 units and have some compromise with the 3F Club with their concern about the 500 feet. The other thing that we wanted to address is that we're not trying to be obstinate here. We're just trying to get past this concept plan stage, at which time we would then do the more detailed engineering that Tim and Bob had talked about in the minutes of the meeting. And we're certainly willing to do that. We just need to get past the concept plan stage and move on to the detailed plan stage as set forth in the PUD ordinance. So with that, we have modified the EAF as requested. We made the changes to the EAF and we submitted that. And we're happy to answer any questions that you might have today. But our main concern is having the public hearing closed so that we can move on and make whatever adjustments need to be made after the final engineering is prepared by our engineers.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Davey, are you gonna present the changes you made on that to the board?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. So after our last meeting, we actually had a meeting with the engineer, the building inspector, the fire inspector, what else was there? That was primarily it. One of the biggest concerns were the, fire access to all the buildings. So the plan as presented represents a 18 feet of parking, 26 feet of driveway, and now 15 feet of buffer between the driveways and the buildings themselves around every one of the buildings. So from my understanding, what the fire inspector is looking for, that we've satisfied all of that. In addition, we laid out the water lines, subsequently laid out the fire hydrants, again, to establish the satisfaction of the fire inspector. From that last version that then was submitted, a couple days ago, I received an email from Tim that consolidated about 20 issues, I believe. So, it's in a really random order, but I'm still like to go through them and then tell you what I've been able to take care of, and then what I've not been able to take care of.
You gonna start right on them, so I can follow along, you gonna start right on the first one?
Sure. The pond, how will it be maintained? It's absolutely 100% going to be on the apartment complex property. If there's any conversation about, dedicating the road, that would still be on the apartment complex, so that's 100% the apartment complex's responsibility to maintain. Number two was the drainage pond itself. Concerns over the location of it, primarily more for maintaining it than anything else. So in the new plan, I've moved it so there's 25 feet on both the north side and the east side of our property for pond maintenance.
And that's not on the plan that I have.
No. And look at a little better, so. Number three, does the 18-inch storm line, does it have the capacity? The plan has been changed, so the pond itself will be throttled down via the weir, so then at that point it would only be a 6-inch discharge, which is permitted by engineering standards. Yeah, the water line was a pretty substantial change. Water line change, we moved to be on the other side of the road, which also answers the question about a concern for having both the water line and the sewer line in the same side of the road as the right of way along with the sidewalk, and any concerns for being able to maintain, for maintenance. So at this point now, we've separated the water and the sewer. Actually, Tim's recommendation to put it on the one side really made things actually cleaner. So then we just have two crossings across the road for water to service the two buildings and the community building, versus the multiple crossings we had in the other road. So, utility company easements. We'll absolutely, we had no conversation with them yet. It's premature for that, but we will satisfy all the utility easements on our side of the 66-foot proposed right-of-way. So once we actually have concept approval, then we'll begin those conversations with National Fuel, National Grid and such.
Isn't that generally something we need on concept?
We didn't have it on S6, so when this comes back for detailed plan, it will definitely be shown on detailed plan.
Sorry, I lost track. Well, so number 7, I kind of already answered, by revising the water line location, we're lessening the amount of stuff on one side of the road and the other side of the road, so we've separated sewer and water. The seeker, new seeker was submitted today, so I know there needs to be time to review it, but there were some open questions and some 1 or 2 errors that we corrected. How close to the parking lot, the property lines on the west side. Again, in order to facilitate the sort of increasing the density of the project to move it farther away from the 3F Club, on the west side, we actually have parking within, in some cases, 10 feet, and in some cases as close as 6 feet. But we'll be screening that parking with fencing. traffic study, I have no idea when the last traffic study was done, so, I don't know how to find that out, but we'll find that out. Again, we know that we have the letter from the DOT saying that even at the 210 units, there's a negligible impact on it.
Wasn't that done last year?
It was done by, they coordinated that with the DOT when it was 168 units. They came back, said no problem. They reapproached the DOT with the 210, the DOT came back, still no problem. On Creek Road. That came out in the coordinated review of DOT.
Yeah.
They didn't do a traffic analysis, just so you know.
Or anything with kids to play on. It wasn't labeled, but it was on the drawing. There is a playground, enclosed playground adjacent to the community building and the pickleball courts. So,
Is that what's behind the pool?
it'd be to the southeast of the pool, kind of the
Yeah.
preschool area there. Oh, so let's go back to the seeker. We're gonna have two or three parts 2 or 3 of the seeker, and so right now falls in engineer's court. So, and then it says I don't have anything from the attorney on the 500-foot rule. I mean, we know the 500 feet are not our responsibility, but again, we made concessions, move buildings around to get down to 250 feet. The only other way to make it any larger would be to go back to the plan that the planning board already hated, where the road was essentially not curvilinear, but more plain linear, and we could pull the buildings up farther, closer that way. But again, this is the result. So we try to mitigate that as much as we could. Size of sewer. Okay, so right now I'm showing one sewer lateral from each one of the buildings. I know in other cases there's been multiple unit buildings, there's been 2. Tim actually educated me on the fact that there is a sewer regulation in the town to say 1 per 4 units you need a sewer lateral. Makes no practical sense to have 8 sewer laterals coming out of each one of these buildings and then it's be collected in another pipe. We have more than enough coverage and slope to be able to handle it, and I think from just an engineering and a maintenance standpoint, we're looking to just do 1 lateral, but again, if the engineer suggests we need more than, or the sewer department thinks we need more from each one of the buildings, then we'll do that. But to me, that's it's a developed final engineering concern. Yes, I had a couple of typos. There still is 423 spaces from the plan you guys have versus this plan. I increased some of the parking areas in order to do, to fully illustrate all the handicap parking spots and the handicap aisles, but it's still maintaining 423 spaces. Parking lot lighting. At this point, really not looking to do parking lot pole lighting or even bollards, but that the parking lot would receive all its lighting from lighting that would be attached to the buildings. We try to create a more, still safe, but less parking lot atmosphere to the.
That'll be all be identified on detail.
Right.
More like wall packs or something?
Well,
For the lights?
I mean, not mercury halide lights, but yeah, it's more, more area lighting mounted onto the buildings versus mounted on poles or bollards. That's our intention. Yeah. If the board feels we need to have more lighting at a more direct parking level, then we'll take that advice. The sidewalks will be privately maintained. Yes, the apartment complex will maintain the sidewalks. Yeah. About a full landscape plan, yes, the final engineering plan will have a full landscape plan. In this version, compared to the ones you have, I have removed all the trees from the right of way, and then I also had 2 trees that were too close to, fire hydrants, and I've moved those as well. The next 2 questions, phasing plan and financing plan, really kind of handle, the conversation I had with the one financial partner we are dealing with today. It kind of goes hand in hand depending on where the final money is gonna come from. I think we all know I don't have $24 million in my pocket. So we've been looking for a financial partner, for that. We've had conversations, and I've mentioned this to Tim, that just from a practical standpoint, certainly the sewer, water, all the underground infrastructure would go in next. Curbing and road base would go in after that. Then we're suggesting that we'd actually build a community building, as the first structure. And so it would serve as actually the, construction office, and then as the buildings came online, it would still be the rental office. Then buildings one at a time until, well, again, depending on the financing, someone start getting some rental in. And then I know the concern is what happens for the, community, spaces, the, pickleball court and the pool. Absolutely, to me, that's, and we'll talk about if you want to put them after the second building's done or third building's done. The pickleball court would make sense to install when the paving's being done, and it's gonna be an asphalt, thing. And then, so again, where that fits into the overall schedule, we can talk about that. Couple other questions that came up, outside this list. The building is now 34.9 feet tall and 224 feet wide and 55 feet deep. Did I say 34 point? Right, 34 point, right. And each one of the buildings is 12,164 square feet per floor, where each floor has 8 2-bedrooms and 2 1-bedrooms. That's what I have.
Any questions, comments from the board?
The plan that you submitted, at least that I see, there's no crosswalks or striping for, I just didn't know if we had that.
Right. So that's the new version of all the handicap access crosswalks to all the buildings.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
The full environmental assessment form, part 1, project and settings.
I'm sorry, I got it. Sorry.
It's okay. Part 1, project and settings is the full environmental assessment form. Under section D, it says the total acreage of the site of the proposed action is 23.34 acres. Total acreage to be physically disturbed, 11 acres.
Correct.
It can't be done.
I honestly didn't do the math on that, my brother did, but,
Well,
yes, and then 7.1 acres, whatever.
this is what I have. The only part that's not gonna be disturbed is this little corner. That can't be 22 acres and all the rest of it be 11.
Okay, I'll have to look at the map on that one. I didn't prepare this one.
I mean,
And actually, right now, I can tell you too, because of the
looking
increase.
at it,
can't be 11, that can't
you know, you can see it, it can't be done.
Okay, I'll also tell you.
Well, how long has this inaccuracy been carried along? Was it, when it was presented to the Niagara County Planning Board, were they told the same information that only 11 acres would be, disturbed? When only, this is the only part that won't be disturbed, it's probably like 6 acres.
First of all, we don't know if it's wrong, and we will check it, but it's not a material deviation if it's 6 or 11 acres.
Unless it's required to have a certain amount of green space.
Well, we need the green.
Okay, but green space and disturbed space are two totally different things.
I understand that.
So right now, if you want me to give you a number, I'm gonna disturb all 23.34 acres. And then we'll return the green acreage back to what we can return it to, whatever's left over.
You can modify that in this application?
Yes.
Okay. I suggest you do that, because by the time you lay down material and equipment moving around, the whole 23 acres is gonna be disturbed. I don't see how it can't be.
Staying on the environmental assessment form. We have this listed as, under zoning. Is the proposed new zoning are we requiring new zoning for the site? And you're asking for a plan unit or PUD, the zone PUD, but that's been approved.
It was approved when I went through the
Yeah,
one
so it's
sixty-eight.
currently zoned, correct. Just to clear that up. Also, under project details, I know that you're gonna phase it in 4 different phases, but under the project details, under F, you said that your initial phase is gonna be 210 units. I mean, that's just not right, if you just clarify that, if you're gonna throw 60 units and then 60 units and 60 units and 60 units, that's fine, but it's, I know it's just an error, but.
Okay, I'll clarify that.
Which section, I'm sorry, was that?
Under D, project details,
Okay.
F,
Yep.
it says initial phase and then final phase, and it's got 210 units under initial phase.
I have another question. Part 1, D1G, an environmental assessment form. H, does the proposed action include construction or other activities that will result in the impoundment of any liquid such as creation of water supply, reservoir, pond, lake, waste lagoon, or other storage? And you check no. Is that supposed to be yes? Part 1D1H.
See that one?
Pardon?
Okay.
It's a stormwater pond.
What's that?
I think the question was more if it's gonna create like a water reservoir or something to that effect, I guess, but it is a stormwater pond. Cause that they'll have on the site.
Well, under D2, project operation, did the proposed action include any excavation other than site grading or installation of utilities? You're gonna have to excavate this retention pond, right? That was checked no. I assume that should be yes.
Yes.
The total anticipated water usage demand per day, 30,000 gallons. Is that like based on like 100 gallons per person per day, or you assume 300 people? Is that how you rank it there?
Yeah, I didn't catch on that, but I think it's on total fixture units, bathrooms, toilet sinks, calculated through the building code as to what's allowable per fixture unit.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Anything else from the board before I open it up? If we can keep our comments down to 3 minutes, just so, you know, so everybody gets a chance, and, try to keep the redundancy down to a little bit. So, 4587 Lower River Road, I'm sorry, is that Harold Hughes? Yeah.
I would like to yield my time first to the distinguished board officers of the 3 applicants.
Okay. All right. Tim Gunther? you state your name and your address.
Good evening, my name is Timothy Gunther, I reside at 4540 Porter Center Road, Lewiston. I also am 3F president at 904 Swan. Just a couple things that we're concerned about. Now seeing these new plans, we see that this new drainage pond where they have it situated is actually really close to our wood duck habitat we have over there, and also we have a marsh pond there for a duck habitat that is just right about in this area here, just about 100 foot, I'd say, from the property line. Which some of it actually goes across the property line into this location. So we're worried about the conservation and, you know, animals being harmed, contamination, displaced, things like that. Also, our pheasant fields, I appreciate that they tried to move the building a little bit further from the property line. That still, where we're hunting there, puts us in the 500-foot rule. We're worried about that affecting us down the line. We're also worried about the town ordinance for decibel levels, if that's gonna be a problem. We're also concerned with residents of this facility, children especially, who wanna play in the woods right there. They come right into a hunting field. That's another concern. Don't know if possibly fencing or a sound barrier wall like the Thruway has to put up along there to keep residents off our property and keep decibel levels down. And to make note that we are probably gonna file an injunction just to make sure from our lawyer that all of our concerns and things like that are properly addressed, because she's a lot smarter than I am. So just to make sure we're protected now and in the future. Also, at the previous meeting I spoke at, we had issues in the past with the housing complex that is there now about some ballistic damage, which was not from us, but it was blamed on us, so we're just another thing that we're concerned about. That them being even closer is gonna open up for us to have some problems. But really, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You addressed the sound burn and the natural barrier that's already up there. You did not, I thought I saw that in the application. Where any natural burn that's currently there on the property line will disturb.
Yeah, we'll maintain those. I mean, one of the big issues we have in terms of trying to create any more additional burning is the drainage ditch, our drainage ditch that goes along that,
The property line, right?
the property line. She drains some of our area, she drains some of the 3F Club, but also drains, was it Blairsville and what, as well. So that has to be maintained, so it really can't, if we were going to, and wouldn't be averse to it, if we're gonna install any other burning, it would have to be back, you know, a bit farther back from the property line, because they put it right on the property line. So, again,
And when we do the detailed landscape plan, we will take all that into consideration, because those are good things.
Also, during construction, we're worried about contamination getting into the marsh ponds, things like that. So we're sure extra environmental precautions need to be taken as far as that, once they start tearing up the land, just make sure that our habitats are preserved.
You have to have a split plan there, right?
Yep.
One of the,
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnston?
Duffy Johnson, 1610 Lot 4 Road, Vice President of 3F Club 904. I didn't really even know about the community building, but the 210 units, 423 parking spaces and that. I just wonder if anybody ever reached out, I'm hearing your laterals to the sewer, to Jeff Ritter at the sewer treatment plant. Can this possibly handle it? Because I know for a fact that come spring when the I&I and the melt-outs are, and Youngstown and Porter and State Parks pump all their sewage uphill, it's tough. And they empty into the river, you're adding all of these people to that, I don't know, 300, 400? How's that gonna go through an 8-inch line and go straight over there? And our community's gonna start pumping it up to him. Does anybody, because I know it's overburdened, they release it into the river in the spring. DEC allows them to. So I don't know if anybody looked into that, but that's a lot of units to put on that sewer treatment plant.
In the conceptual stage, I mean, you wanna have a discussion, but that needs to be addressed on the detail plan, for sure. I mean, in their due diligence, they should probably make sure it can handle it before they have to put in a considerable expense in different pumping stations and
I
whatnot.
just did it, yeah.
Jeff, you got anything to add?
Well, our plant can handle it, but I'm concerned about the 8-inch line being able to handle it. And I think that, in our concerns have been noted that a downstream sewer capacity analysis needs to be done by, I would say, a third-party engineering firm to find out if, in the wet weather season, we're going to be able to handle all of this, the water through that 8-inch line. And off the top of my head, it's looking about 60,000 gallons a day will be coming from this, if not more, because I'm hearing more now. Normal day, that's about 42, 43 gallons per minute over the course of the day. That's normal flow. So when we start getting some I&I issues and it starts accumulating, we've got a lot of residents that can't get their mind around the fact that when it rains real hard, they've got water coming in their basement, and here we are, we're gonna hook all these other people into the system. But there's a lot of things about inflow and infiltration that don't have anything to do with day-to-day operations of being able to take this excess water. I think on a normal, perfect world, we have no problem taking this water. But with the I&I concerns that we have and that we work on constantly, this is something that I'd really like to find out about and have it done, a professional analysis done.
Jeff, how did you arrive at the 60,000 gallons?
It's just, I'm figuring, I don't know how many rooms per apartment.
Right.
Okay, because it doesn't have to do with how many toilets or fixtures. It has to do with how many rooms are in each apartment. And each person contributes between, depending on the fixtures, about 110 to, I would say, the high range, 150 gallons per day per person. So just the rough math of putting that all together. That's what I came up with, but I would let, I would defer to,
Yeah, we'll take that.
yeah.
That's
Okay, well, you know, I'm always gonna try to go for the worst case scenario.
Jeff, could you just explain what I&I is? I don't know if.
I&I is inflow and infiltration. Inflow is, certain things like sump pumps and gutter spouts on people's houses that are tied into the sanitary sewer when they should be tied into a stormwater conveyance. And infiltration is the cracks in pipes that happen over the years, sewer laterals on private property, where the groundwater after a big rain gets into the pipes. Okay, and last year we had 2 of them that were really bad, and a lot of people were up in arms about it. And I don't know if any of those people are here today, but they were really concerned about the fact that we would let more people tie into this without addressing those concerns. And we're always addressing those concerns. That's what we do, is we try to fix these leaks.
Thank you.
And thank you, I didn't say thank you, but thank you very much. I didn't know you were here, Jeff, but thank you.
Thank you.
And for the benefit of the attendee, the concept stage is to have an open discussion and look at the idea. This is not an approval, it's, you know, can they do it, is it zoned right, does it, you know, is it feasible? It's a tool that the town uses, and the detail plan is a considerable greater expense, and it's called the detail plan for a reason. That would be the plan that would be based on approval, where all of those would be spelled out, and all those studies would be done. Anthony Violante, do you wanna speak? Okay, I also have a Gerald Gambino on my list.
I live in Thornwood Forest, I don't have a lot to say, but I can say from what I've heard nothing this week, just my concerns about the traffic at all. And you just added some of these, sewer issues to it. And an estimate of only 300 people with 210 apartments, I think that's a little low in the estimate. I mean, you have 1.5 people per apartment. You know, it's gotta be close to 500, maybe more. If you average 3 in an apartment, certainly 2. That's 420, I can do math. So, and I'm very concerned about property values. I don't think you can stick this kind of subsidized apartments in close proximity to our homes and not have it affect the property values. And we didn't move into Lewiston to have our property values devalued because of poor planning. So for me and for people at Thornwood Forest, we are totally against the project, completely, for a whole bunch of reasons. The schools, the crime, next to the 3F club, you haven't assuaged my concerns about that at all. You're not even close to the 500. Okay, I don't know where you compromise on something like that. They're shooting, they got, you know, their ducks in the environmental aspect of it, but the safety aspect of it. Excuse me? Like, what are you thinking? I can't even get past that. Now you add all these sewage concerns into that, and you're like, why is this even being considered? There's so many negatives, and I don't see any positives. Who's gonna be living there? And it's subsidized.
Who said that?
Huh?
Where are you getting that?
We need to keep.
I got it from somebody who wrote to your town and told me at the last meeting that's what was said.
Well, that clears it all up.
Can you state your, I'm sorry, procedure-wise, can you just state your name and your address for the record, please?
Gerald Gambino, 4384 Autumn Lane, Lewiston, New York, Thornwood Forest. So that's basically all I have. I think between traffic and all these other issues, the schools, what are you gonna do about that? You're gonna have a whole bunch of kids coming into the schools. Is this for elderly? Is this for families? Who is this designed for?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who's it designed for?
David?
You're not gonna answer the question?
Market rate apartments.
Pardon?
They're market rate apartments.
They're not subsidized.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
They're
moving.
You have some proof that it won't be?
They're not subsidized. That's the proof.
Okay, well,
It says the lawyer.
We gotta keep the balance.
I understand. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a Clayton at 44557 Lake Road. You state your name.
Sure. My name's Clay Miller, 4557 Creek Road. I think you guys have a monumental task, right? You guys are in charge now of trying to put together a major development of apartments, literally next to a shooting club. Okay? I wouldn't want to be in your guys' shoes. I think one of the problems that many of the people here have is the comments, you know, it's not going to be subsidized housing. It's going to be. My opinion, I think it's pretty clear for a myriad of reasons that we touched on last time. I would support the 3F Club for the legal injunction. The 250 feet's not enough, where there's a 250 feet delta now between a safe range and what they compromised. Part of the planning, part of any plan, is to ask yourself, not what's happening now, but what could happen, right? 250 feet next to a shooting club is a can of worms that I don't think anyone can know what can happen. So, we have the plans, we have concessions, and that's great. The traffic study we touched on, I said last time, if anyone wanted to come sit in front of my house on a school day and see what the traffic is like, I don't know if anyone took me up on the offer, but I would say that the thought of putting, take everything that's been said out. The thought of putting this next to a shooting range is not a good plan. And to this gentleman's comment, if someone can show me that it is a good plan, I won't come to another meeting, but that just taken at its face value, you can't say that it's a good plan. Thank you.
Anybody else? Joe?
I'll take my time there. I support private property rights.
Sorry, you gotta state your name.
Harold Hopkins, 4587 Lower River Road, Lewiston. I support private property owners developing their land, but you've gotta take into account the 3F Club has a great reputation. It's been doing public service for decades. It should be given the grandfather, at least some courtesy of grandfathering. I think anybody that's looking to develop adjacent land should start by negotiating with people from the club as to how to deal with this barrier deal, but that's basically all I have to say.
All right, thank you. No, well, no speaker. No, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Savard. I am not adjacent to the project or anything like that, but I am a resident of the town of Porter, and I grew up in the town of Lewiston. I'm a Gamble. My grandfather was Judge Gamble. I'm sitting here as a owner of an engineering and a surveying company that does this kind of work all the time. I've worked with these individuals, and they are quality professionals, but at the same time, I'm an active hunter, and I'm here with my family so that they can see this crash of my two worlds. And I feel the pain of both sides of this. And what is really hard to sit back and listen to is, unfortunately, these people don't do development. They don't understand the path that's in front of this project. And they're probably losing sleep over this. And so there's that sympathy there. But what I want to say is, if everybody just follows the tools that are in place and stays consistent with the regulations and does what is required, then their investment and their project and their livelihood is protected, and their projects, their investment and their livelihood is protected. And then everybody is operating with the same rules, and you can have a good solution to this. And because I'm normally sitting where they are in all these other towns, I know what they're going through and how frustrating it is for both sides. And because I'm a resident, I just really encourage everybody to be as efficient and as consistent as possible so that both sides can get out of this in a good way. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just address a couple of the?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I just want to make it clear that the property is zoned property. This is not a rezoning. So we all know that this is an allowable use in this district. The 210 units were approved by the town board, so that we are complying with the edict of the town board not to exceed 210 units. The 500-foot rule is not a rule that we created. It's an environmental conservation law. And the 3F Club is definitely very familiar with that. They know the 500-foot rule. But to try to put the 500-foot rule on us is backwards. They have to acknowledge, I understand their concern, but they have to acknowledge it's their concern on their property. They can't be within 500 feet of a dwelling. Simple as that. That's the law. And they know that. So to try to pin it on us when we're trying to help by moving it over 250 feet and having that dismissed out of hand is quite frankly not right. We're doing what we can to help with their problem. The terms of the traffic, the DOT has studied this, we've said that several times. The traffic has been reviewed, it's not an issue. In terms of the number of residents, that's a formula that everybody uses in the state. Yeah. It's not our formula. It's based on 1.5 persons essentially per unit. That's what it's based on. In terms of the sewage, we understand that we have work to do, and we will do it at the detailed plan. The drainage pond near the duck habitat, we'll take a look at that. If we can move it farther away, we will do that. You know, if that's an issue, we will try to attempt to solve that issue. We will also be talking about fencing and landscaping, as I indicated earlier, so we will try to be as good a neighbor as we can possibly be in that regard. But as I indicated in the very beginning, we'd very much like to have this hearing closed, have the concept plan approved, so that we can move on to these detailed issues.
Thank you.
I just say one more thing.
Okay.
It's this 1.5 persons per apartment is ridiculous. It's unrealistic. What does that do to the flow of water? Okay? It's gotta be at least 2 per apartment. So there's a 33% increase in their claim of water. You gotta do it based on at least 2 people per apartment, and I'm guessing it could be as much as 3 per apartment. Okay? 1.5 people per apartment. The traffic was not addressed. So please stop saying that. If you've ever been on Creek Road, when the buses and during school or before school and after school, you got 15 cars behind the buses. Okay? And you can't get up Creek Road for 15 or 20 minutes. Okay, it's ridiculous. Those are bad assumptions, and they're doing it so that they can make their plan work. It doesn't work. Okay, the traffic concerns were not addressed, and obviously the sewer concerns are not addressed. And the 500 feet, they've been there forever.
Since the 40s.
Okay, so don't go pinning it on them. Okay,
Keep comments more, please.
they need to take care of their own business. And you went from 100 and something apartments down to 200 something because it didn't make financial sense. I don't care about that. You got too many people and too small a space with too many problems. Their assumptions are invalid.
May I ask a question? May I ask a question? Do we know the time of?
I need you to state your name.
Oh.
And your address for the record,
Elizabeth Coffey, my address is 3558 East Avenue. I'm the recording secretary for the 3X Club, 904 Swan Road. The traffic study that's been referred to, do we know the time of year when the study was conducted? Is my question.
It was not a traffic study, it was a coordinated environmental review, and the DOT was asked for comment on the traffic for this project.
Well, that's a
2
little
times,
different.
once at 168.
Can we answer?
Once at 168, which they said, from their opinion in their review letter to us, was it's not a problem. They were resent that information at 210, and they came back and said 210 was not a problem. But there was not an official traffic analysis study done.
Okay, so I think I misunderstood because I was under the assumption that the way it was being termed was there was an actual analysis of traffic.
It was part of the seeker review.
There was, the DOT did.
No, but it wasn't an analysis of,
That's exactly what it was.
but he just said it was correct.
It will be done for detailed
There was
plans.
no study done.
He just said it was not, you just said it was not an analysis, correct, Mr. Masters?
There was not a full traffic study done. It was a comment from DOT commenting on this project, saying it will not be a problem for DOT at 168 or 210. Now, just so you know, in the detailed plan, if you read the PUD law,
Sure.
a traffic analysis is required.
And that was gonna be my next question, when we move to the detailed phase, would that be something that would be required?
It's, if
And
you go
this-
online, look at the list of required items for a detailed plan submission, that is one of the items.
Perfect, thank
Again,
you.
this is, we're just talking about a concept.
Sure.
And this applicant has made 20 different revisions to this plan since the beginning of the concept. I mean, they've been very, very accommodating. But this is, this is what this is for. It's so everybody can get together, put their heads together, we can have an open discussion, and the applicant can make changes based on your input, and then, of course, what the PUD law says that he has to do. So, just to keep everybody on board.
Thank you.
I like the interaction, this is beneficial to everybody. But as part of the PUD law, a traffic study has to be done.
Sure.
Sewer will be addressed. You know, all of those items will be addressed on a detailed plan.
And there will be more meetings,
Yes.
obviously, for the public to comment.
Yeah, we will do this again after we review the detailed plan. And if you have questions on the detailed plan, we're gonna have a public hearing, we're gonna do this again. And then, and as an advisory board, hold on, as an advisory board, we just make recommendations to the town. So then, you're gonna do this process again at the town hall level, in front of the town board, where they will have an open discussion, and they will make the final approval. Our job, we are tasked with making sure that concerns are met, and we're crossing our Ts and we're dotting our Is, and we're gonna try to bundle it up so that the town board can make the appropriate decision. So this process is us giving the town board all the information that they need so that they can make a decision. So they're not sitting in 12 different planning sessions, if you would, please.
What analysis was done that you guys approved it going from 168 to 210? Sounds like a split it in the middle kind of deal. What analysis, environmental, traffic, everything else that gave you the green light in your head to say, go ahead with this, bumping it up 50%?
I can address that. As a planning board, again, we don't write the codes, we abide by them, we're the custodian of the codes, nothing more, okay? There was an entire process to get this 210 units, and it was a compromise, not based on this board, it was at the town board level. If you wanna discuss that further.
So Mr. Palumbo, right? Gave you a recap at the beginning of how this process went. So, you know, they got it approved at 168. That was the original plan. The town code, as it sits right now, would have allowed 188 by right, okay?
188 by what?
By right. So that first plan could have came in at 188 with no special approval, okay? They brought it in at 168. They came back and said, we don't think it's financially feasible, and correct me if I'm misspeaking, Dave, okay? And so the planning board did not feel in their purview that they felt comfortable making the call because it's a referring board, and the town code says the town board may grant bonus density. So
Did they do that?
they did, yep. So the applicant went back to the zoning board, which was allowed, and asked for a variance on the density. The town code allows a variance for density. The zoning board denied it. Mr. Sandonato was on that board. The zoning board denied it. The applicant filed Article 78 against the town based on that. In the meantime, they went to the town board directly, asked for 210. The town board, what they based that on, I can't tell you. They approved the 210, which then sent it back to the planning board with a hard number for them to review.
You just said they disapproved the 188.
No, I didn't. I said they would be allowed by right with no special privileges or special authorizations to have
What's the basis of them
188.
going up to 210?
Say that again?
Because they said it wasn't financially feasible.
Correct.
Tough luck.
Yeah.
Tough luck.
Yeah. Well, I didn't make that decision, the town board did, so.
Okay.
no.
Yeah, we're just filling in the blanks, that's why we need to keep the comments to the board, please.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
I just wanna say, when you guys are contemplating all this and thinking about it, our organization is falling to the wayside. Every year, more and more of these conservation clubs are folding, and when things like this happen around, if this is the reason that they're closing. We do a lot of things for the environment, for the kids. When I started the youth program at the club, I had 5 kids. We had other conservation clubs in the area close, development, things like that, and we've absorbed them. So within the last 3 years, I went from 5 kids to 30 because they had nowhere else to go do conservation. You know, we do the Purple Martin project over there where they migrate from South America up here, things like that. So when you consider this, you know, organizations like ours aren't lasting this time, you know, lasting this day and age. Everything's getting developed, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah, but I thank you, I appreciate that. But I will repeat that this is just,
I know,
we're just discussing an idea.
I know.
And then it'll be up to the applicant if the applicant wants to move forward. State your name in here.
Yeah.
Please, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thanks. Poor Lisa,
Clay Miller.
she's gotta keep it all square for the minutes.
Bring a sign. Clay Miller, 4557 Peak Road. Just in the dialogue going back and forth, if we refer to the minutes of, when Mr. Colombo was here last time, there was no mention of the analysis. It was phrased very clearly as a traffic study, okay? So I think as part of your planning, if the residents here all agree that traffic is a major concern, which is my major concern, I think before we move forward, we should spend
And you're right.
the deeper dive
And-
on actual study.
And that happens at detail.
Okay.
So that happens at detail.
Template.
And not because you're requesting it,
Yeah.
the town
That's the
board is in
process.
the town laws,
Okay.
that is what our law states.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, that will be addressed.
Just a quick
Yeah, state your name so Lisa can keep it straight.
Harold Hopkins, 4587 Lower River Road. Tip, I thought when the zoning board of appeals rules on a matter, it's not appealable, it's final.
Tom?
Any administrative action of any government can be sued. It's called an Article 78
Right.
action, that's what Mr. Palumbo did.
Okay, so the zoning board of appeals ruled, and the Article 78 challenged it, and the outcome was,
I think you've already been told the outcome.
they won the Article 78.
They went back to the town board,
Okay.
and the town board granted it 210.
What basis?
Sir, you asked almost everybody in this room that question, and they don't have the answer for you, because it's the town board that granted that, so.
I just
You know,
wondered
I think
if
we
you
can
got the
move on
last
from
year attorney.
you calling out questions
would've
to
told
random
you.
people in the room at this point.
Yeah, please. As long as we can all agree that the traffic study issue is resolved.
All right, my name is Steve Zappi. I live 2602 Youngstown, Lockport Road, Ransville. I've been a 20-year board member at the 3F Club, and I've been on the zoning board for the town of Porter for about 8 years now. And I have to say, I have a lot of respect for all the decisions you guys make and all that goes into this process. But what I want to address is the seeker. I never saw the seeker review that Mr. Palumbo was talking about, that we're well aware of the 500 feet for, you know, the house. There is no houses right there, right now. One of the questions on the seeker, was this problem self-imposed? Yes, it was. Is there other issues that can resolve this? Yes, there is. So you might want to go back to your seeker and look at all that again. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want to comment on that?
We have to do a part 2 and 3 based on the new updated part. There was a coordinated review done when it was 168 units. All of that, all those comments were received. The biggest one was the New York State DOT, which we've already discussed.
Anything else? Alright, we'll close the public hearing. Any other discussions from the board? Alright, well, we have options. We can make a recommendation. We can consider all the information that we have and make a decision before the next meeting, I guess, right? We could do that.
Yeah, you would make the decision at the next meeting
Right.
if you were gonna do that. You're not required to make a decision this evening.
I don't think you can without the seeker done.
the first thing you need to do is render a decision on the secret. And I would agree with you, Tim, especially since we went through some of the topics tonight on the secret that the applicant needs to, has admitted, made some adjustments. So you should be able to give Mr. Lannon the opportunity to make a recommendation to your board about what the secret would be. It'd probably be a good idea, for that reason alone, to reserve your judgment until next month.
We need to keep the public hearing open?
No.
No, the chairman already closed it, which is fair. I think it's been open for multiple meetings, and frankly, I think we've flushed out the topics that are available.
Does anything change on the secret with the new application from the 168 application?
I'm not anticipating it, but I'll take a closer look.
So we need to complete the secret process.
Yep.
We have no objection to you putting it on the next meeting.
I think for the benefit of the audience though, if, so the public hearing is closed, but you're more than welcome to attend next month's meeting, which should be the third Thursday of the month. I don't have the exact date. So you will know the outcome of the planning board's decision.
So
Tim,
then,
do you have that date?
so then what's before the board is
March 20th. March 20th.
March 20th.
Motion to adjourn.
I would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Okay, very good. All right. Thanks everyone.
Maybe at 5, it's like 1:00.
Good.
Good, Bob.